pushes back with strong points that challenge his claims at every turn. Let's get into the debate and see how Chris Cuomo puts Bill O'Reilly on the defensive during this intense exchange on News Nation.
Now, I want to bring Bill O'Reilly in and see how he sees this economy playing out in the midterms. Do you think that this is going to be the main motivational issue come November?
Yes, I think it will be, although the communism thing is rapidly obscuring the day-to-day spending habits of Americans. So the communist thing is very detrimental to the Democratic Party. But
what is
Trump's
the communist
thing?
thing?
This. Hello, are you on the planet Earth, ma'am, Donnie?
Yeah, but I mean, just because Trump calls people who want change communists doesn't mean that it's resonating.
Okay, if you study the man, he's a communist, so is his father. All right, he wants to control the means of production in New York City. He's going to use regulations to get landlords out of business. He's going to try to control the food flow into the city. So you can sit there and say, I don't believe it. People believe what they want to believe. Man's a hardcore communist. And so are the two others who were
Listen, my brother ran against him, right, and lost twice. The policies he's put in place are barely socialistic, let alone not communistic. And here's what I don't get about the communist thing. One, there is no such thing as a communist country, okay? There is none that is technically communist. You got North Korea, you got Russia, you got China. And the weird thing about those places, the only semblance of affinity I've ever seen is that Trump respects all three leaders. Trump thinks that Kim is a strong leader, Putin's a strong leader, and Xi is a strong leader. He's the only guy who's said anything positive about communism.
That goes day by day because he wants to get a deal with those people. Cuba is probably the best example of a communist country where you cannot do anything without permission of the government. So look, we're not going to solve this. I believe that Mandani is a communist. You don't freeze rents across the board unless you want to control where people live. You just don't. Now, the affordability thing. So Trump's point of view is this. Okay, it's tight times for many Americans, but there's only so much the federal government can do about that. And I brought this up with Vetter last night. If you have $1,000 and that's all you have, okay, for a medical emergency or your kid's in trouble or whatever it may be, if you have $1,000 and you've been working, 10, 15 years someplace, whose fault is that? That's your fault. Okay? Because there is a way to accumulate assets in this country. That's called capitalism. All right? You accumulate them.
Economic hardship is about much more than the choices individuals make. Millions of Americans work full-time, and many of them even hold 2 or 3 jobs, but they still find it difficult to cover rent, groceries, childcare, healthcare, and other everyday necessities. For a long time, wages have failed to rise at the same pace as inflation, while housing prices have increased far faster than incomes in many areas across the country. Claiming that people simply did not save enough ignores the fact that countless families have very little money left once they finish paying their basic monthly expenses. That is not making excuses. It is a reality supported by years of economic evidence and independent research. At the same time, calling every proposal for stronger economic policies, communism shifts attention away from the issue that really matters. Americans can have honest disagreements about taxes, housing policies, or government spending without acting as if the nation is walking away from capitalism. Those comparisons may attract headlines and drive social media attention, but they rarely explain how any specific policy would truly affect working families. The more meaningful discussion is whether a proposal lowers living costs, creates more jobs, encourages healthy competition, or helps families build lasting financial security instead of depending on political slogans. History also proves that public investment and private businesses have often succeeded by working together. Programs like the GI Bill, Social Security, Medicare, and the interstate highway system open new opportunities while also supporting long-term economic growth within a capitalist economy. The real challenge today is finding practical answers to inflation, affordable housing, rising healthcare costs, and stronger wage growth. These are the problems families face every day, and they deserve serious solutions instead of political debates that create more division than genuine economic progress for hardworking Americans.
And then I give the example, and I think you would buy into this because your neighborhood was fairly close to my neighborhood in New York. Since I'm 10 years old, I worked. And my father, and one of the pieces of advice he gave me, probably the only one I ever took, was every time you get a paycheck, you save 10% of it. And then you buy into the capitalistic system, buy stocks and bonds. And I have done that. And the stock market, as everybody knows, has enriched a lot of people. Now, 58% of Americans have stock, the rest don't. But again, whose fault is that? So I'm not sure the affordability crisis is the right way to frame this. But I will cede to you that it is an emotional issue, that it's real, people are suffering, and that's not going to help the Republican Party. It will not. But if you want to build assets in this country, you can build them. But if you sit on your butt doing nothing, you can't.
Yeah, I think, look, Bill, I think that's where the road diverges, okay? There's no question that America at its best is a land of opportunity, and if you bust your ass, you can live your own personal dream. However, it has gotten way too hard. Underemployment is the least talked about, most powerful thing in our economy. More people are working harder than they ever have. I'll tell you what it means. And look, that's part of the problem.
I don't know what that is. What's underemployment?
Here's underemployment. Unemployment is who has a job. Underemployment is how good is the job. And more Americans are working more hours for less, working multiple jobs, and they are not getting the wage growth to keep up with prices, so they can't save.
Then why don't they do something? Why don't they do something about it? So community college is free across the board.
They're working more than ever. They don't have time to go to community college.
They don't have time. Okay.
They're working multiple jobs. When you and I grew up in Queens, Bill, one middle-class income was enough for a whole family and a pace for home ownership. Now you got both parents working and sometimes one of the kids.
It's a different time now, okay? So community college is free across the board. So if you're not making any money in your job, okay, maybe you want to figure out a better job. Get more skills. Just driving an Uber in New York City, you can pile up some serious cash. Just driving an automobile, okay? So I don't know what this underemployment is. I worked at jobs where I wasn't fairly paid, okay? And I got another job because I knew I was getting hosed.
The belief that anyone can simply work harder and become financially secure sounds encouraging. But the economy today is far more complex than it was a few decades ago. Worker productivity has risen significantly over the years, yet wages for many middle-income Americans have not kept pace with the growing costs of housing, healthcare, education, and childcare. Many people are working longer hours than earlier generations, but their income still does not go as far as it once did. That growing gap is one of the main reasons financial stress remains common, even during periods when unemployment appears relatively low. Another challenge is underemployment, a problem that often receives far less attention. A person may technically be employed, but if the job comes with unpredictable hours, low pay, or no benefits, building long-term financial security becomes extremely difficult. Telling workers to simply get a better job overlooks real obstacles such as limited access to training, family obligations, transportation expenses, and the fact that many industries no longer offer the dependable careers they once provided. Economic mobility depends on opportunity, but those opportunities are not shared equally across every community or profession. There is also increasing concern about market concentration in several major industries. When only a small number of corporations control sectors like airlines, healthcare, housing, or food production, consumers often end up paying higher prices while having fewer options. Even when companies reduce their operating costs, those savings are not always passed along to customers. As a result, families continue paying more despite working just as hard. Personal responsibility certainly plays an important role, but it cannot fix deeper economic problems on its own. A strong economy requires both individual effort and smart policies that encourage fair competition, lower the cost of living, and create better opportunities so that hard work leads to real financial progress instead of ongoing economic pressure.
Now, one caveat to this. Insurance companies, healthcare companies, airline companies, oil companies are all gouging the American people right now. They are using capitalism. Look, the airline industry, their jet fuel costs have dropped significantly, but not their ticket prices. They spend billions of dollars telling you to buy State Farm, paying these people exorbitant amounts of money, and then you, a good client, okay, no accidents, no fires in the house, get a premium renewal that's up 30% with no explanation.
Now you're getting it.
No, I've always gotten it, Cuomo, but I'm not a black and white kind of guy. If I'm in a circumstance where I'm underemployed, then I get more credentials to make more money. And you can do that here. Mandami ain't gonna save you. He'll make your life worse.
I think that if the Republican Party argues in the midterms that the reason times are tough is because you're not doing enough to help yourself, they are going to have an epic defeat because people are working harder than ever, and the system has made it harder than it ever has been before. And it's about the choices. You just named some of the good fixes. There's some fixes to be had here.
History proves you wrong. The Great Depression was far and away, okay, the most onerous economic thing that's ever happened. So you can't make that comparison at all. But if the Republicans go out and say, hey, Clyde, the reason you don't have any money is because you're not smart enough to figure out the system and make more, you're right. Clyde ain't going to vote for you. But that is the truth.
Especially when a lot of those people were MAGA. And let me tell you something about that.
I don't care who they are.
Great Depression. Let me tell you about the Great Depression. Let me tell you what the big difference was. How did we get out of the Great Depression?
Yes.
Federal government action.
World War II. No.
Federal government action.
It was a war that got us out. It was a war that got
was a
us
catalyst
out of the Great
to the
Depression.
economy after the war. And let me tell you, if you study Truman, as I have.
After the war. No, after the war. It was during the build-up to World War II that the economy turned around in this country. Fact.
Well, that is true, because that was the New Deal. The New Deal absolutely helped people get out from under it. I know my family was among them. The New Deal from FDR helped people get out of the Great Depressions, Bill. That's what it is, not an opinion.
I'm coming to your house and tutoring you on history because you badly need it. The New Deal was a safety net process. It wasn't underemployment. It wasn't giving people free stuff. It was a safety net.
Yes, and that has been eroded.
A key point that is frequently ignored is that personal responsibility and economic realities can both be true at the same time. Most Americans appreciate the importance of hard work, but working longer hours does not always lead to financial security when the cost of daily living keeps increasing faster than wages. Housing, childcare, insurance, and healthcare have all become much more expensive over the past 20 years, leaving many families with very little left to save or invest, even though they work full-time. That situation cannot simply be blamed on a lack of personal responsibility. Another challenge is the rising concentration of corporate influence across several major industries. Airlines, insurance companies, healthcare providers, and other large businesses have continued reporting strong profits, while many consumers are still paying higher prices. In markets with limited competition, companies often have the ability to raise prices without giving customers many other choices. That is a major reason affordability has become such a widespread issue. A healthy economy depends on fair competition, open markets, and meaningful consumer choice, not only on the